Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Equity and Healing series for the Orange County ACEs Aware Trauma Informed Network of Care. My name is Ileana Soto Welty. I'm the Health Equity Liaison here at Be Well. And we're really excited to be working with Renata today to talk about how we can work on healing. One of the things that we are doing at Be Well is we are um, promoting proven strategies to help reduce toxic stress, which includes supportive relationships, sufficient quality sleep, balanced nutrition, regular physical activity, mental health care, experiencing nature. And today we're going to talk about mindfulness. If you would like to learn more about the ACEs Aware initiative, you can go to acesaware.org or pacesconnection.com, and I'll put those in the chat. And I'd love to, without further ado, introduce Renata. Renata is a mind-body therapist, and her healing practice is in Dana Point, California. She is a holistic practitioner at the Hugs Healing Center, offering an integrative approach to mental health. She is also an advisory board member for the Extraordinary Lives Foundation, promoting children's mental health awareness and holistic healing options. Renata has a BS in dietetics and a MS in holistic nutrition. Her passion and dedication to mental health and wellness led her to study the integrative field of mind-body medicine. She is certified in emotional brain training, body talk system, mindfulness, and she's also a yoga teacher. She does sound healing, and she's a Reiki master. She guides her clients deep into a healing process so that they can unlock their potential for health and wellness. She utilizes powerful healing techniques, mindfulness practices, yoga-based movements, and sound therapy to facilitate the release of stress, trauma, and the multifaceted root factors of suffering so that her clients can experience physical, emotional, and mental health. It is such a treat to have you here today, Renata. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm gonna share my screen so we can have a little bit of a visual on what we're gonna be exploring today. So today the focus really was mindfulness and how to incorporate that piece into prevention of burnout, even if we can call it treatment of burnout, so we can recover vitality. And a lot of you are, in the field of health, and so we deal with a lot of people and a lot of demands, and we need to make sure we have our own practices to maintain our bucket full, right? And so that was my main idea today, to share with you a kind of a guide to create the best possible practices to keep yourself filled up, so you're giving from your overflow kind of idea. So today we're gonna do a self-test just to kind of explore our risk for burnout, where we are at the moment. And this changes, right? Because life demands different things from us. So just we're gonna do a check-in for today for where we are. We're going to talk a little bit about self-care, just demystifying it and understanding the power of self-care. We're going to explore seven key elements to stopping the depletion cycle that leads to burnout. And from those seven key elements, we're going to work on a step-by-step guide to help you craft your personalized self-care routine. So today, because of time, we're going to do a very short version of it, but you are going to have the PDF, the handout, so you can go back to it and take more time exploring and personalizing that self-care routine, which will include the mindfulness practices that we're going to explore today. Some of these practices are going to be a breathing practice that it feels like a meditation, because in a way it is a breath focused meditation from the Hecht Trauma Institute. It's called attitude breathing. And what it does, it allows you to shift from a depleting attitude or feeling to a regenerative one. Okay, very practical, very easy to use, very, very useful. We're going to talk a little bit more about it when we are actually practicing it. We're going to do a brain activation tapping technique from Body Intuitive, which is a body mind energy kind of work. And that is to calm the survival response in the brain and activate the adult part of the brain, so you can respond to life with more presence and be more effective in how you're responding to the challenges in life. We're also going to combine mindfulness meditation with a sound healing immersion that I'm going to be using some crystal bowls and very high frequencies, bringing in a little bit of my healing work to do the frequencies that we're going to be creating. So you are experiencing something very restorative today, and by us spending time together, you're receiving and the benefits of that. So I wanted this today to be for you, right? So this is like self-care for you this next hour that we're going to be together. And so take in as much as possible, modify the information to what works for you always. And just mindfulness is that, right? Mindfulness is being mindful, right, of the needs of your body, mind, and spirit, and adjusting things to work for you. So if there is anything we go over that doesn't resonate and that's not for you, feel free to disregard it, right? And take in the pieces that really resonate and even modify the pieces also, right? So if I'm guiding through a practice and it's not working for you, perhaps you do it in a slightly different way, and just being really mindful of what that's doing for you, right? And when I teach yoga, we never teach like proper form because nobody's the same. So we teach students to really listen to their body. So what does the shape need to look like for you, for your body, and how it is today? Maybe one day when I do a forward fold, my knees are straight, but another day my body stands, there's more stress, I didn't sleep well, and I need to bend my knees to give my body enough leeway to be able to forward fold, or I end up hurting myself, right? So I'm going to encourage you to keep that in mind, okay? So first, I want to play with you and look at what are risks for burnout right now in this moment. We're going to have a 9-question test, self-test, to explore that. So I want you to answer. Ileana, is it possible for you to share on the chat the PDF file?
Yes, I will do that. Did you want me to do the poll?
We can do the poll when we're done with the test because I want to know where everybody is. So Ileana is going to share on the chat the handout, and you're going to have this test for later. So, in different times you can retest and see where you are. So I'm going to encourage you to grab a pen and paper, or if you have your phone with you, you can just start adding up the numbers here for whatever you're answering on each question. So they have a value. Each question has a value, as you can see, right? So the way you're going to check that is, let's start with the first question. Do you have trouble concentrating or making decisions? And so you pick your answer. And the value on your answer is the value that you're going to start writing down or adding to putting on your calculator to add up these numbers. Being as honest as possible here. This is just for you. Do you become easily irritated with others? Do you feel dissatisfied or disillusioned with your work or other responsibilities? Are you critical or cynical about your work or other responsibilities? Do you have trouble getting started on a task? Do you have trouble with sleeping or feeling rested? Do you use food, drugs, or alcohol to manage anxiety or tension? Do you dread going to work or coming back from vacation? Do you feel isolated or unsupported in your work or other responsibilities? So now I want you to add up your numbers and see what risk category you landed. So if your total was 9 to 12, you're in the first category of no signs of burnout. If you got the highest numbers between 40 and 45, those are kind of signs that you are in severe burnout, right? So I want you to just check in where you are. There's no right and wrong. This is just a scale of and gives us feedback information, so we can work with that. So the poll Eliana is gonna send, I want you to answer that question. On that, what were your results on this scale 1 to 5? Where are you at risk for burnout? Eliana, can you share with us when you have the results?
Okay, I just launched the poll.
Great. You can just choose your number there. So we had about 5 people answered doing so far, 7, 8. Okay, more. Okay, most of you are answering now. Fantastic. So we have a range here. Some of you are in the low range, and some of you are on the 3-4 range for risk here. It is beautiful to see that nobody's at 5. I am very happy. Not that it's wrong at all, it's just that it's very nice not to be there, right? So these techniques are going to really support you wherever you are at the moment in your life. When you have low risk of burnout, it's much easier to have mindfulness practices, right? Your nervous system is in more of that responsive, calm response. So you get a lot of pleasure, a lot of joy. You do refuel, and it's like these mindfulness practices will be wonderful to prevent burnout, right? And to prep your lifestyle so you become more resilient. If you're on the 3 and 4, these practices are really going to support you move up that scale. So even more important to do it when life is more demanding. and it just builds that resilience, especially the mindfulness tools that we're going to be talking about today. So, on an empty tank, right, we don't go anywhere, right? So, taking time to refuel, taking time for ourselves is not a silly thing to do. It's an extremely important thing to do, right? Our personal goals, our goals within our families, within our community, within our society, we are better people when we are taking good care of ourselves, right? So you are your most valuable asset. Because if you think of any category of your life, right? If you think of your spiritual connection, your connection with your children, with your friends, with your significant other, your relationship with your career, your financial health, all these areas, they depend on you, right? The better you are, the more refilled and the better you're taking care of yourself, it's going to leak into every single area of your life. So you become a very, very important asset that needs to be prioritized in your life. So the question becomes, what does my body, mind, and soul truly need to thrive? And that's just a self-inquiry question, is a question to bubble up some things for you because they are that important. Think of a time where you were really depleted, you didn't sleep well, where there was so much going on in your life. Think of how you treated others, how patient you were, how loving you were, how kind you were, how productive you were in your projects. When you're overwhelmed and in distress, it's like driving in New York City trying to find your way around for the first time and have someone call you and want to talk to you. You're in overload. You're not going to have any bandwidth to give anything, right? But then think of a time where you were really rested. Perhaps you came back from a vacation or things were going in really smoothly in some areas of your life and you felt loved, safe. How easy it is to be loving and kind, not only to yourself, but others, right? So you're giving from that overflow is a very, very different feeling. And today my goal is to help you find personalized ways to fill up that goal. So you're giving from your overflow. Self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. So let's explore how to build that overflow. There are 7 key elements I want to explore with you today to stop that depleting cycle and start building up the vitality, the energy, so you are overflowing. Those 7 categories are your feelings and attitudes. Think of how draining being anxious is or depressed. It's like there are a million holes in your bucket, and no matter how much you try to fill it, there's just this continual leak out of it, right? And think of when you're feeling loved or in love, how that just instantaneously brings you energy and you feel that you can tackle anything in life, right? That's how impactful feelings and attitudes are. Behaviors and habits. Our behaviors and habits, when they become continuous, like the accumulation of them, right, of your behaviors and habits, will become who you are, right? Because it's the accumulation of what we do, of what we practice, that creates in our lives. So very impactful. Also relationships, we all know how draining or how fulfilling they can be. Career and financial health, right? Nutrition plays a nice role here, not only on the body itself, but on our emotions, our mental state, right? Sleep and rest time, how important it is to have enough of that. Some people are less or more impacted by this one, but all of us are impacted. We all need some rest. And then the opposite of that in a positive way, which is movement and exercise. Our bodies are meant to move. When we are too still, we become stagnant. And the body stagnates, the emotions stagnate, they don't have a place to flow, to move. We stagnate mentally and even spiritually. Okay? So these are just some things to think about. So in terms of stopping let's go back here, stopping the depletion of these things, I want you to, for our time today, perhaps one area, but with your handout, you're going to be able to spend a lot of time with this, or as much time as you have, and kind of go over each category and play a little bit. I think you're going to learn so much from the self-inquiry process of really questioning, what are the depleting feelings and attitudes in my life right now? Right? For you, maybe anxiety. For you, maybe you're grieving, or there is depression, or right. So the attitude of victimization, right? What is it for you? Depleting behaviors. I'm watching too much TV. I'm spending too much time on my social media. Depleting behaviors, right? It can be addictions of any kind. I'm craving that glass of wine or two every night, right? So, what is it for you? What are the behaviors that for you are actually depleting your energy, right? And contributing to burnout? Depleting relationships, what are those for you? Some of them we can completely change. Some of them we can adjust and establish boundaries, right? In terms of your career and in financial responsibilities, what is draining you right now, right? About that. In terms of nutrition, is there anything depleting you? Too much sugar, too much alcohol, not enough fiber, not enough water. I'm not eating frequently enough, going hours and hours and hours without eating, or I'm eating too frequently. I'm always going for the snack. Is it because I'm eating too late? Right? Personal to you. Lack of sleep and rest time. Is there some of that going on for you? And is there any lack of movement, of exercise that is actually depleting your energy levels? So for today, I want you to pick one. You can open the PDF. Iliana, I don't know if she already put it, but it will be on the chat for you. If you don't have that, just you can think about it a little bit, or you can write down on a notepad. Pick just one and identify some of those for you, right? So here I'm just checking, let's say an example that I'm picking 3, right, to work with, and then looking at what those are. Write it down. And then on the handout, you're going to see that I'm going to encourage you to make a commitment to pick 1 to 5 things that you identified for our time together. We're going to just look at one and set a goal to change that a little bit. How can you modify that so you are plugging one of those holes in your bucket? Right? Make sure when you're setting that goal, the goal can be measurable, right? So you can see that you actually you can measure it. It's very practical and it's achievable. It works for your life. You're not gonna set a goal that is gonna be super hard for you to attain, right? You want something that is achievable and measurable, so you know you're doing it. So for example, it could be on the depletion feelings and attitudes. Oh, I'm identifying that I'm like in this place of fear all the time, and it's creating anxiety in my life. It's draining me a lot. So I'm gonna commit to twice a week, I'm gonna use the practice that I'm gonna teach today to shift my attitude. 2 times that I catch myself in fear, I'm going to breathe into it. I'm going to identify my attitude. I'm going to shift it through my breath. It doesn't matter if it works or not that one time. What matters is that I practiced it, is that I'm building that muscle of resilience. It's achievable, right? I can measure it. I did it. I can check it off. So set one SMART goal for you in one of these areas. And you can see how the more you do this, right, the more holes you're going to be plugging in your bucket. And the easier it is for you to maintain your vitality. So the goal is to stop giving your energy away, right? To these depleting habits and things that, we create in our lives, and use it to create a beautiful life. To create from that place where you feel that you're overflowing. So we're going to explore now what energizes and restores you. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to just pick perhaps one in our meeting, but I highly encourage you to go back and spend some time exploring, because this will actually be that faucet, like filling up your bucket, right? One of the best advices I was ever given was to pick something you love to do and do it twice a week. And it literally changed my life. I found a dance class when I was pregnant with my second child, and I did, no matter what was happening in my life, I was there twice a week. And guess what? When I moved from Colorado, where I was, that was the hardest thing to leave behind. I was like sobbing my entire last class, because that had been my therapy. It had been my emotional release. It had been my joy, filled up my bucket every single time with consistency. Today, it has become my yoga practice. That non-negotiable place that I know if I stop doing, my life's going to be different. Right? And sometimes these things are tiny. They can be very little. They can be going to bed 30 minutes earlier. They can be making sure I'm drinking 8 to 12 glasses of water a day. It can be adding electrolytes to my water, right? They can be tiny things, or they can be really big things. I need to move out of my house. I need to break up this relationship. Right? So pick one of those. Examples of feelings and attitudes that are regenerative is joy, grace, gratefulness, peace. Examples of regenerative behaviors: kindness, patience. Behaviors that allow for restore time, for rest time. Behaviors that allow for movement, for good nutrition, for rest. Invigorating relationships, taking a look at what relationships in my life actually nurture me. What relationships do I leave feeling inspired, restored by? Can I make more time for those relationships? Can I check in with that person more often? So fulfilling purposeful job responsibilities, which ties into financial things. So is there anything I can tweak? Is there any energizing thing that I can do about my career and financial health? So energizing nutrition, right? Identifying for you what would give your body energy, vitality. Tweaking little things on sleep and rest, and also movement and exercise. I'm not going to go too much into it because I know that Be Well has a lot of resources for those. We're going to keep our focus on the mindfulness aspect today. So same thing, picking 1 to 3 to work with, identifying those. And the ask here is for you to also pick 1 to 5 of these areas, and not only areas, but actual things on your list, and set a goal to actually committing to, right? So examples that I said was like, how can I generate more gratitude in my life? Making a gratitude list every single morning. 5 things I'm grateful for. It takes 2 minutes, right? Invigorating relationships while taking my kids to a hike once a month. Because I know once a week wouldn't be realistic, right? So just look for that in terms of what for you would be the most impactful. Do we have any questions before we move on? And you're going to have the chance to come back to this and really take your time creating your personalized self care routine that plugs in the holes on your bucket and really brings in those things that help you be filled up, restored, and overflow. Any questions before we move on?
I have I have one. Sorry, I raised my hand. Um, the PDF, does it have more examples? Because I think part of the burnout is we can't think of examples to use for renewing feelings and attitude, invigorating relationships. And so it will help us get to that stage if we have more examples. Are there more examples in the PDF?
No, I can send you more examples, but one thing that I would encourage, especially if you are feeling on the higher ends of burnout, is to go slower instead of more. When we're in burnout, less is more. So little baby tiny steps will get you much further than trying to take this enormous step that feels much overwhelming and too big, right? So I would encourage you to say with one question, not all of them, just one area, and do a mindfulness practice before you do that. So shift your nervous system from a stress response to calm response with one of the practices that we're going to do today. And then from that place, sit with one item and see what bubbles up, and then work with that. Because you're right, this process of self inquiry requires presence. And when we are stressed in fight and flight, we don't have that level of presence. So any little thing that is added to it becomes overwhelming. So it is slowing down, taking it much, much slower to a place that feels doable and achievable, and then going from there. So you can take a month going through this list or more if you needed to.
Thank you. Kalita has her hand up.
Thank you. So, Renata, this is really excellent. And I think you answered part of my question. However, being type A, I tend to start mindfulness practices, but am finding that I have trouble being consistent with them. So I'll start out really well. I love the results. However, being consistent has been a challenge. Do you have any recommendations to help us be more consistent?
Yes. So building those practices, right? It's building any habit takes time, right? When we don't have to think about brushing our teeth, it just is a habit. We just do it. So it's not overwhelming to brush our teeth because we wake up, we do it, right? Before we go to bed, we do it. So building habits is just like that. 21 days seem to be the magical day for building habits. For some people, that's a longer period of time. Some people can accomplish that in less, but 21 days seem to be that number that works for most people in terms of consistency. And again, in my perspective, from what I see, when you can't establish that as a habit, there might be a few things going on. One, you're trying to accomplish too much too fast. and then it's too big for your lifestyle right now, right? So you drop it because it's just too much. So in that case, it's very useful to do less. So I'm going to do a 30-minute meditation practice every day for the next month, and I want to do that every day. That might be too much if I drop it because it's just that I don't have that much focus in me right now. So I'll drop it to 5 minutes a day. So I'm going to do every night before I go to bed, I'm going to sit up for 5 minutes and I'm going to do a 5-minute meditation. And that builds the habit of you sitting there and starting it, right? So cutting back is a big one. And the other one is to tweak your goal so it's in integrity with you. Because if you're trying to do something that your soul is not in integrity with, it's not going to be into it. It's going to say, I don't have time for that. It's not going to prioritize. It's not exciting for your soul. So, a lot of procrastination is like the soul is not into it. Your mind thinks you should be doing that, but your soul really doesn't care about it, right? So for me to build habits that are actually lasting, right? And they become things that you look forward to doing, you have to adjust to what your soul wants to do. So let's say you pick an exercise as a goal here. And I'm going to exercise 3 times a week for 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, 3 times a week. I know that if I set myself that goal to go lift weights, it's not going to happen. I've tried many times. It has never happened, right? Why? Because my soul is not into it. It is not an exercise that fills me up and brings me joy and gets me going. But I can get to yoga 2-3 times a week every single time because I found a class that is feeling to my soul, that I'm inspired by, that when I'm done, I'm so glad I went. So it's tweaking what you picked, how often you picked, how much of it you picked to be in integrity for you, for your soul. Your heart wants to join it. So that's what you're looking for here.
I have another question, Renata. When you mentioned meditation, there's so many. So where can we go for the meditation that makes our soul sing?
Yes. A lot of it is trial and error. A lot of it is you exploring different ones, and you may have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. I will give you a few options today. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's jump right into it. It's going to be a meditation that is very simple. It can be done in 1 minute to 15 minutes, and it is especially useful for shifting feelings and attitudes. So if I feel like I'm anxious right now, or I'm starting to get overwhelmed, and I feel like I'm impatient, and I know that there is a negative feeling that is a depleting feeling. So one way that I can work with it is through this breath work, okay? So first thing, I want you to recognize the depleting feeling or attitude for you right now, okay? So just close your eyes for a second and tune in. I know we've been talking for a little while, so you may have disconnected from the stressors of life and your feelings may be kind of neutral right now. But see if there's anything that is going on for you that is bringing a depleting attitude or feeling. I'm not asking you to generate one, okay? If there is none, don't have to go there, but just notice. And I want you to name it. So it's very helpful to name it here. Fear, anxiety, sadness, depression, worry, grief, low energy. And we're going to name it just so we know what it is. And then what do we want to bring in instead? So if you experience anxiety, What I most often want to bring in if I'm experiencing anxiety is peace. If I'm experiencing depression, I want to bring joy. If I'm low energy, I want vitality. If I'm overwhelmed, I just want peace. I want clarity. So for you right now, what is the feeling that you want to call in? So identifying those, we start the breathing technique. This breathing technique is beautiful because it creates heart coherence. It establishes a very nice coherent way in which the heart beats, which is the space between beats. So it's not about fast and slow. It's about how much space between each heartbeat. And when it's coherent, we have access to the heart's intelligence. When it's coherent, the heart's talking to the brain. So you establish that heart-brain connection. Your nervous system is operating from a calm, present state. Your heart is synchronizing all the rhythms and cycles of your body. So physically, your health gets optimized. You have more mental clarity, more presence, more ability to respond to life. So we are going to create that heart coherence right now. With your eyes open or closed, bring your attention to your heart space. And start breathing in and out of your heart slightly deeper and fuller than usual. You're going to find a rhythm that feels comfortable to you. Continue to observe the movement of the breath in and out of the heart space, chest area. Keeping that rhythmic breathing. With this nice breath in and out of the heart or chest area, connect to the feeling you want to breathe in, that you want to bring into your experience. It can be a feeling of joy or peace or gratitude. Gratitude is very useful in shifting the heart into coherence. You can even start in gratitude. Any little or big thing you're grateful for, the important thing is for you to actually feel it. Continue to breathe in and out of that feeling. And you can extrapolate to the feeling of joy or clarity that you're calling in. Sometimes you'll be able to feel it right away and shift that internal state. Sometimes it'll take a few minutes, and you continue to breathe in that rhythmic cadence, slightly deeper and fuller than usual. And as the heart moves into coherence, it allows for that shift in attitude. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes. So on my website, I have a guided process for this attitude breathing technique. It's about 3 minutes long, so it's super short because I wanted to make it very practical and doable. It's under healing tools or meditations on my website. But you can easily do that on your own. So when you catch yourself on a depleting attitude, oh yeah, I'm doing that. What's that gonna do for me, right? It's gonna deplete me more and more and more. can I do something to shift it? Oh yeah, I have that one tool. Let me try, right? So breathing in, creating that heart focused breath. When you feel like the cadence is rhythmic and the heart kind of sink into it, connect to gratitude. And then call in, breathing in that attitude or feeling that you want to shift into. Okay, you can sustain that for 5 to 15 minutes if you really want a strong practice, but even experiencing the shift is quite powerful. Very simple, very effective. The Heart Math Institute that created this technique has a lot of science behind it on their website. It's a great resource. So I'm not going to talk too much about stress because we just shifted our system out of stress and into this relaxation response. I don't want to bring up too much to put us back there. But I do want to distinguish the difference between stressors and the stress response. It's not the same thing, right? The stressor is what's coming at you, and the stress response is what you are doing with it. Very different, right? Life can be extremely stressful, and you can have so much resilience inside that the way you're handling that stress is beautiful, right? You can respond to the challenges, you can do what you can with what you have, and keep moving along with peace and centeredness. Or sometimes the stress can be very little and we feel completely overwhelmed by it, right? So I just want to distinguish that difference between stressor and stress response. And what we are doing with mindfulness practices, we are addressing the stress response. We're building resilience in the body. So you can respond to what is with what you have, inner and outer resources, right? So I want to share one technique that is extremely powerful from the body intuitive energy healing modality that shifts the brain from the survival, overwhelmed, stressed out place to the responsive, this is a challenge, but I can do it kind of state. Okay, so I just wanted to point out this because we're going to have some hands positions and it will make sense to you why we are pointing to those areas in the brain if we can look at this. So the brainstem, which is the red part there, but also the back of the brain, that medulla kind of area, is the survival area of the brain, the reptilian brain, right? It's only concerned with, am I safe? So anything that makes you feel unsafe, it could be a bill that is too high, it could be a call that is not coming, it could be anything, right? That triggers, I'm not safe, right? It's gonna activate the survival centers of the brain. We're gonna access that with our hand in the back of our head. Okay, you're gonna see how that's gonna work in a little bit. The limbic part of the brain also activates the stress response and activates the amygdala. So through hormones and neurotransmitters, it puts your body into stress response and sometimes in a chronic state of stress. So when the limbic brain is not feeling safe, it will trigger that fight and flight or freeze response. And we're going to address that by placing the hands on the sides of the brain. We're pointing to this blue area, the limbic brain. And then we have the prefrontal cortex, this green area of the brain, right? That is the more thinking brain, the adult part of the brain that can reach for resources, that knows it can handle things, that's problem solving and solution oriented. And we want to activate that part of the brain. So we're going to point to it by placing our hand on our forehead. Okay, so this is the technique, very useful to shifting from survival mode to the resilience mode. It's called the stress mindset reset. Okay, so it's not that you're going to be all calm and zenned out. It's that you move from, I can't survive this, I'm overwhelmed, I'm panicking, I don't know what to do, I'm in paralysis, I'm stressed, to, oh, this is hard, but I can totally do this. Right? And allows you to take the next action and the next and the next and the next, right? Puts you in a state of peace, but with presence and energy to handle the challenges of life. So there are 3 steps to this technique. The third step is great because part of it is that heart breathing. So that's why I wanted to teach you that first. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is get that survival area of the brain to calm down and to activate the prefrontal cortex, the adult part of the brain that tells you, your inner child that is freaking out, I got this. We got this. We can do it, right? So one hand goes on the back of your head and one hand goes on the front of your head. You are aware of your situation, of your current condition. There's probably something stressing you out, overwhelming you, giving you anxiety or something like that, right? So here the intention is, on the back of my head, I want to lower the survival response. And on the prefrontal cortex, I want to amplify the solution-oriented response. Call that the challenge response. And then you take some nice deep breaths here. You can even imagine there is a dimmer in those 2 areas of the brain, and you're dimming down the survival on the back of the head, and you're dimming up the resourcefulness in the front of the head. And you take a few breaths there. Your presence, your focus is very powerful. So if you're focusing on those dimmers, your body responds to it. The deep breaths are important here. And you can release your hand after 3 to 15 breaths, depending on what you need that day. And bring the hands to the sides of your brain. Now we are addressing the limbic brain. And you bring up the stressor to your mind's eyes. And your question is this stressor going to kill me in the next 5 minutes? If it is, drop the practice and go handle it. Run away, get the gun, do whatever you need to do, right? But most often the answer is no, it's not going to kill me in the next 5 minutes. It is hard, it's challenging, but I'm okay. I'm not going to die in the next 5 minutes. And just let your body, with that question, is this stressor going to kill me in the next 5 minutes? You're looking for the answer to come from within. So there is a realization on that part of the brain that you are actually safe right now. You're in your room, in your office. There's no threat around you. You are okay. And you take some nice deep breaths into that sense of safety. And then you let go of your hand. And we're going to finish this technique with that creating heart coherence. So there is a whole shift here, and the heart's intelligence kicks in. So you do that breath in and out of the heart space. Connecting to a sense of gratitude. And you can repeat that 3 times. Sometimes you do it once and you already feel a shift. 3 times seems to be a magical number for this technique and the way it's taught. Sometimes you may need more than 3 times, or you may need to do it a few times throughout the day because that thing keeps coming back and triggering back that switch up on the survival, and you want to bring it down and bring it down. And that's also building that muscle of resilience. Right? Because the automatic response is to put you in that state, and then you retrain the brain. Oh no, this is a challenge. This is not a life threat. This is a challenge. This is not a life threat. I can actually do it. I have a lot of inner and outer resources. It is okay. I am safe. I am safe. And you start building new pathways in the brain. You start building the resilience muscles of the brain. So this technique is also on your handout. I created it in 1 page so you can see it all together, these 3 steps. The 3rd step we already learned on the previous meditation. So you have these 2 hand positions really shifting into presence and responsiveness. I highly, highly encourage you to use it. It's extremely powerful technique, but it only works if you use it, right? And if you use it, the more you use it, the easier it is to experience the shift because your resilience muscles are stronger. I want to check in with Ileana. I know it's 12 o'clock and I want to honor everybody's time today. So I want to check in with everyone and Ileana if we have like 10, even 5 minutes to finish our time together with a sound healing with the alchemy bowls.
Yeah, we do. And then I just wanted to share a couple slides of resources at the end.
Okay.
And I put some additional resources in the chat if anybody had to leave, but feel free to stay with us. We'll probably stay here until 12:15, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sounds great. So I'm gonna move a little bit my setting here so you can see what I'm doing and experience the bowls. I am gonna bring a microphone into your view. I know it's not the prettiest thing, but it will create the best audio possible for you, so it's worth it. You can receive this. Kalida, you can put your question on the chat, and in the end, I'll try to answer it, okay? You can find a comfortable sitting posture. You can adjust a little bit so you can receive this as relaxed as possible. This creates really nice high frequencies to restore your body, to fill up your bucket a little bit with really good energy. It's very healing and relaxing.
Renata,
Yeah,
can you stop sharing your screen? Everybody wants to see a bigger version of you.
absolutely.
Great.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So if you can, close your eyes. If not, you can watch and receive. Take a nice deep breath. And as you exhale, let all the air out of your body. Take 2 more of those close to yourself, your family, your community. From that place of overflow. So I want you to bring to your mind's eyes what that version of you looks like. Just play with it. There's no right answer, wrong answer. What does feel good to you? When you see yourself overflowing, what does that feel like? You can let your imagination run here. Doesn't have to be realistic, doable. It just has to bring up this feeling for you so you can remember what that feels like. And without having to know the how, call in that energy into your life, into your body, as if you were a magnet to that feeling of walking through life with peace and joy, overflowing with vitality. Such a great pleasure to be together with you today and explore this important subject of your inner state, your well being, because that state of overflow is your birthright, is who you truly are. And everything that pulls you away from that, there is a level of some out of integrity choices, some out of integrity paths, and some things that we can tweak to come back to this place. And it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be all the time. But any little thing that we do, any 1 degree turn towards that place is incredibly pleasant, and it opens you up and it brings you energy, right? That is the place where there's never lack of energy. That is the source of life itself. So any little tweak that you can do towards that allows you to drink from that place. So that is my invitation for you today. I encourage you to take the handout and play with it. Come back to it in certain times of your life where you're needing a little bit of a recalibration, and allow the work to teach you to be a journey.
Thank you so much, Renata. That was so beautiful. And I really enjoyed the sound healing aspect of it. I know you'll be doing additional sessions with the Hecht Trauma Institute. So I look forward to those. Hopefully they're in person.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a combination of different formats and different opportunities.
So just in closing, there's more to come. If you are interested, you can go to the Hecht Trauma Institute website. There are resources there for online classes. The link is in the chat. And now they're going to be having some yoga as well as Reiki sessions. I put the links in the chat so you can register on Eventbrite. And I'm really excited about that. They're going to be located in Tustin. And we look forward to seeing you at our next Equity and Healing session, which will be focusing on creating a mindfulness practice towards cultural consciousness. And we'll be having Sharon Herbert, who is a psychologist at Chalk, be presenting next time. I'm looking forward to having her be part of this. And thank you all for being here today and taking the time for yourselves. And Renata, it's been such a pleasure having you be part of this series. So
thank you so
all.
much. My pleasure.
Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.